slurp my butt. And I said that with eye contact. Can you do that as well?
It's very intense.
Welcome to Hey Guys Podcast. I'm Rob, that's Liam. And I just want to ask you a question. Just one question. Would you like to swing on a star, join Bruce Willis in an adventure, and be better off than you are? All right, I'm done. Join us as we discuss this 1991 classic, Hudson Hawk, a film that literally makes no sense, takes overacting to the extreme, and was a box office bomb in the US, but did well around the world. Hudson Hawk feels like what a live-action cartoon would be. Plot devices that mean nothing, over-the-top villains, a trip to the Acme shop for the grenade launcher, or musical numbers. Now, usually in my intros, I discuss the plot, but I don't want to waste any of this gold without bringing Liam into the fray. Liam, the man that looks for the best in all films, even the god-awful Karate Kid film. But I wonder if you will find anything redeeming about this one. Me, on the other hand, I love this film. I love the stupidity. I love Bruce going for it. I'm not sure what he's going for, but he's going for it. The make no sense.
He's going for something.
The make no sense robberies. Oh, and Frank Stallone. Oh, come on, Liam. I've dragged it out long enough. How much did you love this film?
Let's not beat around the bush here. I absolutely despise this film. 167 episodes in, and this is easily the worst film we've done, and it's not even close. It's trying to find redeeming features. The only thing I'll say is this film does veer into the so bad that it becomes fun category, because, and for many of the reasons you outlined, this film is a mess. So even beyond, on an objective level, this is a bad film. But when you add into that, I hate this style of muggy comedy. Everybody, oh my God, where do we even start? This is such a smug movie. It just drives me up the wall. And the thing, like Bruce Willis, he's always been an inherently smug actor, you know, with his smirk and stuff like that. And he kind of gets away with it. The problem is with this film, and it's the same problem with the overt zaniness of it, is that everybody is playing the same trick. Yeah. So everybody's smug, everybody's zany, everybody's annoying. And you're just like, could you just turn some of these cunts down? Just a smidge. Just a smidge.
The problem is, I think he's going for charming, but he's gone past charming to smug. The 4 fucking earrings really upsets me. I don't know why.
I was upset with the hat. And then even when I just looked at the poster... with the combined with the 4 earrings and the vest thing, I was like, fucking hell, Bruce. And that's right. The big problem with this film, it's a case of, have you ever heard of the term toxic positivity? You get it in business places. Basically, businesses start failing because they have this culture where everybody is just saying yes to everything because everyone's like scared of upsetting the boss or anything like that. So eventually, nobody says no to bad ideas. And this is a classic case. Like nobody wants to say no to Mr. Willis. How does the hat look? Awesome! It looks fucking awesome. The earrings aren't too much. Too much. If anything, you should have another fucking 2 in there. Somebody needs to step up and say, Bruce, what the fuck are you doing?
And that's one of the things that's in trivia. Sorry to interrupt, but you were right there.
For it.
He kept doing on-screen, on-set ideas. Oh, well, it'd be great if we did this. It'd be great if we did this. And they filmed everything.
Dude, 100%. I bet the farm, he brought that hat from home. He brought that fucking hat from home, and everyone's like, oh, dude, where the fuck is that from the wardrobe department? No, he brought it. It was on one of his album covers. Jesus fucking Christ.
It's 1991 as well, right? I reckon he got on set and he went, have you ever had a cappuccino? What, those little Italian coffees? Yeah. Have you ever had a cappuccino? Because I just had one. And you know what? That's it. Hudson Hawk has to want a cappuccino. That's his entire thing. I am not doing this film unless Hudson Hawk wants a cappuccino. What?
Well, that's the weird thing as well. It's supposed to emphasize the fact that he's somewhat cultured. Like this idea that, I drink a cappuccino, like a totally basic bitch coffee. I know maybe it was slightly different in 1991, but it's just a cappuccino. So for most of the film, there's this running joke. There's a number of running jokes which hardly register as jokes. They're just words, but are delivered in a way as if to suggest, isn't this funny? I was like, wait, that was just words. There's no joke in this. But anyway, one of them is this ongoing joke with the cappuccino, which doesn't land at all. But then this on the one hand is trying to suggest, oh, he's quite cultured, blah blah blah, but on the other hand, he goes to Rome and asks for ketchup on his spaghetti. It's like, what the fuck is going on here, dude?
I
Nobody's
don't,
reread the
although
script. It
I
doesn't make
did
any
love
sense.
when the dude brought in an ice bucket and then showed it like a bottle of wine. Just
No,
held
that
it.
was quite
That was
good.
good. But the
There
cappuccino
there
thing,
are moments, but one of the greatest crimes of this film is that the people who made it simply are not funny. And they're the worst kind of unfunny people because they're the kind of people who think they are funny. So they have all the confidence of thinking that's like, oh, I'm inherently hilarious. But they're just not. Watching this film is akin to watching the first round of Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent. You know those poor cunts who show up on the first week? They've been told their whole life by their overbearing
yeah,
parents, like,
they're the
oh, you're a
greatest singers in the
fantastic singer.
world. Yeah.
This film needed a Simon Cowell to step in and go, guys, this isn't funny. None of you are funny. And it's just like, for as great as like Bruce Willis is in like Die Hard, or how great he can be under someone else's direction, as soon as he's let off the leash, you suddenly realize, and you know, I know he's in a bit of a state at the moment, I don't want to pick on him, but he's an inherently kind of uncool guy. You've heard the music, you've seen the album covers, and this is him without a leash, without anyone just saying, dude, just maybe don't fucking do that. And it's rough,
because
dude.
of the success of Die Hard 2, wasn't it? He did Die Hard 2.
100%.
He's riding a high, and they're like,
Mhm.
go on, you can do pretty much what you want. He went all out. I mean, I want to go back to that cappuccino thing, right? You said
Yeah.
it is an unfunny joke, to be fair, because they kind of forget about it after the scene in the Five Tone Bar where
Yeah.
Captain Bob's steering wheel has disappeared from. And then they bring it back right at the end. He said he finally got his coffee. But
Mhm.
when Frank Stallone's brother shoots that cappuccino,
Yeah.
is the bartender dead behind him? Because he shot a cappuccino
Yeah.
in a loaded, in a very busy restaurant.
He did, and that right. This brings me to right to say that there aren't any redeeming features. Like I really do dislike this film, and a lot of it angers
Say
me.
it again.
Like, but it does, and you mentioned it in the intro. It like kind of created within this like cartoon world. Like there is some solid direction. It's a somewhat inventive screenplay if you take away the inherently unfunny dialogue,
Yeah.
and at its best it's something between kind of the last action hero send up of genre movies and a wholly live action Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If nothing else, the best thing to say about this film is there's nothing quite like it. It's basically Looney Tunes, but with a really R-rated script. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't know who the hell it's for. I have no idea who this movie is for, other than maybe Bruce
For
Willis.
10-year-old me. I loved
Yeah,
this film when I was 10. But
oh, dude, I totally get if you watch this as a kid that you might love it because it is absolutely, it's totally irreverent. It's utterly bonkers. It makes no sense. There's nothing else quite like it. But coming to it as a 42-year-old man,
oh, yeah, absolutely. I
ooh,
totally agree with you because there's a lot of questions the 10-year-old me never asked. The
100%.
41-year-old me was now going, okay, how did he fall from that height, hit a canopy, and land in the parole officer's house?
Well, right, this happens twice, and I wasn't sure if they were playing it off as a joke. So you have the bit when after the robbery, they jump off over that one tiny canopy, and there's two of them. And make no mistakes, is it Danny Aiello, the other actor?
Yeah,
He's not, as they keep making a joke about. He's not a small fellow. They're both dead, but they cut away. Everything's fine. And then later on, they jump off. Sorry, Hudson Hawk jumps off the castle. I think maybe with Andy McDowell. I can't remember. And again, it just cuts away because you're like, well, they would just be dead. And there's a number of times this happens throughout the film, and it was almost like I'm not sure if it was just they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense, so we'll just cut away, or we're turning it into a joke because this movie's kind of a cartoon. But like so much of this film, it doesn't really land either side of the fence. So instead, I was the same with you. I watched it. I was just like, wait, shouldn't they both be dead? But they're not. It's fine. That's why I was thinking maybe the whole Danny Aiello thing coming back from the dead at the end of the film was cut in to the point where it's just like we're fully aware that none of this film makes sense. Like he drives off a cliff, the car explodes,
Yeah.
and he just shows up at the
Airbags,
end.
airbags and sprinklers saved him.
And they really laid on. That's one. Like this film is terrible until the very final frame, like that last like freeze frame, and when you have him and Daniel Ayo again being far too smug at this whole boys club thing, and like I'm still alive. And they just keep shouting it. I'm like, God damn, this film is obnoxious as fuck.
You know,
sorry to really put my
fine.
two feet in. But...
I'm smiling for all of this because it's great. But do you know what upset me the most in this?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that when they crossed on the pool rope to get into the auction house, they only had small bags.
Yeah.
Where did they get the skateboards from? The 1980s thick as a dick skateboards.
Yeah, they're big ass skateboards, those 80s ones.
Yeah. Where did they come from?
Nobody knows.
I mean,
like...
I'm all right with them setting their robberies to songs. I'm good with that. Yeah, that's perfect timing.
I'm not, just to be clear, I'm 100, but like that affectation, again, it's an affectation derived from Bruce Willis just wanting to sing in a movie because that's what he did at the time. He's releasing albums. It makes no sense. They are committing a crime where the most important aspect of it is literally being fucking quiet. And their whole shtick is, we're going to sing through this whole fucking thing. They're the worst thieves of all time. Of all time.
Yeah, they're whisper singing. They are whisper singing. It's great. Right up until the end.
They just sing out loud.
When they do that duet right at the end about, and then they go shush, shush, shush. Like, dude, you've already told half of the fucking building you're in there.
It's absolutely bananas. And to bring it back to like how I think this movie could have worked on one level, and the skateboard's a perfect example of that. If they had gone full Looney Tunes and they hint towards it, especially towards the end of the film, when it just goes off the deep end. There's a scene where a paralysis scene, which we'll get to, which I just despised. There's the fight with James Coburn at the end, which I hated even more. But at that point, it's almost a Looney Tunes cartoon. And I'm like, I kind of wish they had done it earlier to prepare me for that. Like if they had you'd almost had that tiny little bag and he'd pulled out a giant skateboard, almost as if to tell you, this is a make-believe world.
You'd want that noise, wouldn't you, when they pull something out where it goes, like pull.
And that's the thing, the noises and all the other shit would make sense if they went all in on it. But because they only go halfway, those Three Stooges sound effects that they do in this film as well, I hate those as well. I hate it. And again, like Bing Crosby, who doesn't love those songs? If truth be told, in the days since I've watched this film, I've had those songs in my head.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the quality of the film. It's just down to the quality of Bing Crosby, I suppose. But if this was a cartoon world and they'd gone all in on that, I think all of it would have made more sense and I would have given the movie a lot more leeway. But instead, it's like 1 minute you're in the real world and then next minute you're in Looney Tunes. And I'm just like, dude, you have to pick a side. And they just don't.
Going away from the cartoon stuff and everything, we need to try and nail this plot down a little bit, okay? Because
how needlessly convoluted is this fucking movie?
So it all boils down to them trying to turn lead into gold because apparently Leonardo da Vinci is an absolute fucking genius and he can do that. That's great. I get that. That's fine. So they hire the Mario brothers to hire the parole officer to hire Hudson Hawk to steal these three things. Andy McDowell has teamed up with the Mayflowers to stop them by pretending to do it because they've teamed up with the CIA. The CIA have teamed up with the Mayflowers, but the CIA are actually not double-crossed by the Mayflowers. What the fuck is going on? Why are the CIA involved?
You were doing pretty well then, as far as I can tell. I have no idea to any of the follow-up questions that you have. When Andy McDowell started talking to a statue like it was fucking 1967 Batman, I was like, Jesus, titty fucking Christ, what is going on now? And about halfway through, I was like, wait a minute. It didn't really dawn on me because there's so much going on that the fact that the plot didn't make any sense hadn't really bothered me. And of course, then I'm making notes and suddenly I was like, wait a minute, what exactly is going on? And why, there's 4 more parties than there need to be. And then, of course, they introduce these bad guys who are named after chocolate bars for some reason. We don't know.
Well, because they could have been named after diseases, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
but gonorrhea for a year.
James Coburn, why he has this cartoon collection of buffoons working for him, I don't know. But
there's no way Butterfinger would ever be in the CIA for a start.
There's just not a chance. But even outside of that, you have like the kind of core group of these chocolate bar related buffoons. But kind of adjacent to them is Kit Kat and Snickers, who seem to be doing their own thing again. Like they seem to be their own little duo. Like, is it David Crusoe? Is that his name? Or
David Crusoe was Kit Kat and Don Harvey is Snickers. My question is...
It's almost like their performance is borderline like avant-garde. It's like watching a kind of art installation in the middle of the movie, which is in and of itself actually quite fun, like what they're doing. But to your point, it doesn't make any sense. And again, as soon as you ask the question, why are they here? Oh, then the bricks start tumbling.
The introduction is weird as well. When Hudson Hawk looks around and he sees them all in the auction house and they're all eating their respective chocolate bar. I would hate to be a CIA guy and be called Bounty, because if that's the only chocolate bar then I'm meant to eat, I don't think I'd be happy.
No, that would be massively disappointing. I'm trying to think who I would want to be, actually. Now you mention it, I think I'm glad I'm in agreement with that. Of the kind of standard, the kind of mainstream chocolate bars, and this is obviously very UK-centric we're talking about here. Because, I mean, if we're talking American chocolate bars, well, you can literally pick anyone, because most... I
couldn't tell you American chocolate bar, but I've already thought about this as well, and I do have my answer. I'd want to be called...
There are actually some decent ones in America, but Hershey's is their most famous one. And Hershey's is a horrible chocolate because you bite into it and you think it's going to be okay. And then this taste of foot just sneaks in through the back. It's fucking horrible. But Bounty would be a terrible choice. But the important question is, what would you want yours to be? Both, not in terms of just the quality of the chocolate, but you've got to think about the name as well. You're going to be stuck with it.
No, mine's Fuse.
Ah, that's pretty good. I mean,
remember Cadbury's Fuse?
Yeah, I remember Cadbury's Fuse. Fuse is... The name is cool as shit. There's no two ways about it. I don't think it would, like, if I could only eat one chocolate bar.
I miss that chocolate bar. It's got everything in there. It's got raisins. It's got Rice Krispies, if I remember right. Oh, I'd love a Fuse. The only other one would be
Starburst or something. Yeah, but the thing is, I love a Whisper, but then it feels like you have to have that shtick. And let's be clear, neither of us are very good at fucking whispering. So... I think we'd be fucking dog shit whispers. So you're better off with Fuse. I mean, the thing is, I want to be double decker because I love double deckers. But
that has a whole different connotation.
I guess I'm quite tall. It's not quite a high tower, but double decker might work. You know, double decker buses, they're tall. So I'm going to do a double decker anyway. That's going to be double decker.
I would have gone for you, Turkish Delight. I don't know why.
Turkish Delight, dude. I'm far too white to be fucking Turkish Delight.
Turkish Delight.
Dude, I think we could be like a good wrestling tag team. Double decker and Fuse. That sounds fucking badass. That sounds totally badass. But anyway, now I just want a double decker, if truth be told.
And we'll get to the... Well, I mean, there's not much more we could say about the CIA.
Well, no, you have to bring up one thing, right?
His line in the car?
Oh, his line in the car. In a movie awash with terrible, strange lines. Like, really odd. Like, there's a whole line about, like, with the butler who has the cool knives, where he's on about flying on Concorde, and they make a supposed, and I'm doing the bunny ears joke, about frequent flyer miles. I'm just like, was that a joke? Is this a joke? What the hell's going on? However, everything else pales in comparison to Butterfinger's line in the car, and I will let you do the honors, sir.
Oh, thanks for making me go on record saying this.
No problem.
When they're looking through the window and they're going to go, can you see them? And out of the blue, Butterfinger in the back of the car just goes, want me to rape them?
Yeah, he says, what's going on in there? Do you want me to rape him or them? Whichever way you hear it, it's bad. It's really bad. And
apparently he's an equal opportunist raper. He will just go for both of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, where did that... Like, I literally paused. I was like, wait, what the fuck did I just hear?
I don't understand where that line came from. It takes you straight out of the film.
I was convinced, 100% convinced. I was like, nah, that's not what he said. That's no way what he said. I rewound it. I was like, that's what he fucking said. Nobody reacts. It makes no sense in the context of the scene. He's just, do you want me to go and rape them? Holy fucking shit. Yeah. Surely somebody, you know, like every so often you get like something like from Nike or like one of these big brands, and there'll be like an advert or a, like, I don't know, like a trainers or something, which will get all the way through. It's like, I know you're not a football guy, but the Euros are about to start and Germany are playing this evening. And on the back of their kit, their Adidas numbers initially looked like the SS. If you had 66, it literally looked like the SS. And it's made it through how many pairs of eyes before it's gone out to the public. And eventually it's taken a normal member of the public to go, guys, that German shirt, the German national football shirt, looks like it's for the SS. And it's like, this is one of those moments. Like, how many people heard and saw this and went, that's fine. This is fine. We should keep that line in. It's that fucking insane.
I mean, that line is gratuitous. It doesn't belong in there. But there should have been that one person as well saying a lot of this. Bruce Willis's lines, and I will say lines, when he apparently has a gurney with a fucking engine on it because he's overtaking cars on that bridge.
It's weird. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's actually like, again, to bring it back to the whole idea that this is actually relatively well shot. That sequence is really well shot, but it's also utterly mental and makes no sense.
Yes. But it's like his lines, reindeer, goat cheese, pizza, he says again. So that's the third time he's ever said that line because he said it once in Last Boy Scout and now he said it twice in this film, or vice versa. I can't remember when Last Boy Scout was released. Then you get 1-800, how's my driving? 1-800, I'm going to fucking die. Then it's toll booth. Who puts a toll booth here or something like that? Exact change only. He just happens to have change that he throws it over. And then he manages to go through the toll booth and then ends up under the bridge, I believe, where the CIA find him.
Yeah, and it's when he's delivering these lines, he's really mugging to the camera. And as I mentioned at the top, I really don't like that muggy style of comedy. And I get the impression that he wrote all of those lines. And he co-wrote this movie, as he also co-wrote the main theme song. And you can see why nobody let him near another script again. And you can feel the moments that his involvement were at their strongest. And it's times like this, it's like, oh, this would be really cool if I'd say this and then that. And it's like, oh my God. And like I said, it's a shame because the actual scene and the way it's structured is quite inventive, but the dialogue that is kind of scattered throughout it is horrendous. But that's true of the entire film. But that's the thing. We're saying how ludicrous this film is. We've not even mentioned Darwin and Sandra Mayflower. Richard E.
We
Grant
were going to get there, trust me.
And Sandra Bernhard with two of the most abhorrent cinematic performances of all time. Now, I do not say that lightly.
Never disliked person as much as I dislike Bunny Mayflower.
I think her name's Sandra Bernhard, but yeah, Bunny, I think is what they call it.
Minerva. Sorry, Minerva. He calls her Bunny, doesn't he? Yeah.
No, sorry.
I've never disliked anyone as much.
Sorry, Sandra Bernhard is her real name. I do apologize.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of her at all. Her character.
Terrible. She just annoys me. And I like Richard E. Grant, but this is one of my least favorite performances of anyone in anything.
You're not the only one. Richard E. Grant dislikes this performance.
He does indeed. But that's the thing, right? His performance is one of my least favorite performances in any film ever. But it's topped by Sandra Bernhard in the same fucking movie. She is even worse. And I mean, this isn't just me. So you mentioned there about where is it? Richard E. Grant. So Mark Kermode, he used to work on Empire. Now I think he does the BBC stuff. He was doing an interview. Once told him that he liked the movie, to which Richard E. Grant replied, "It was a stinking pile of steaming hot donkey droppings, and you are an idiot." Supposedly, when he and Andy McDowell were convinced to go and watch a advanced screening of this, and they both looked at each other and said, "This is going to be the end of our careers." They knew back then just how bad this was. Andy McDowell and Bruce Willis have the worst chemistry of anyone I've ever seen in my fucking life. And for most of the film, Andy McDowell doesn't seem to know what kind of movie she's in, whether she should turn it up or turn it down. And then all of a sudden, about 70 minutes in the film, she goes, "I'm going to be a dolphin for the next 10 minutes straight." Or at least that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it was like she was playing this straight. For most of the film, she's the straight guy, shall we say. And then she's decided, you know what? Everyone's being fucking nuts in this film. I'm going to have I'm going to throw my 2 cents into the ring. And I'm just going to, like you said, be a fucking dolphin. I liked what you said about...
too long. Sorry.
I like what you said about the chemistry. They didn't have chemistry.
No.
The only people I thought had chemistry in this film was Bruce Willis and the dog that gave him head.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what you think of Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello together on screen, because they do have chemistry.
Yeah, they needed to be in a straighter version of this film where 100%. It was the cat burglar and his mentor, and they're doing one last job. That again, I love this film. But as you've said, so bad it's good. That's the reason I love this film. I have fun with
Mhm.
it because it's fucking ridiculous. But
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I would love to have seen those characters
Mhm.
in a straighter version. I'm thinking more along the lines of Robert De Niro in The Score.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, where
You could
you
see,
had that.
you could still have it as a comedy, but that's the thing. It's like because they're both turned up to 11, it's just too much. Like I don't dislike Danny Aiello in of himself in this film, and I don't particularly. I'm not even sure if I hate Bruce Willis, but together and with everything else going on, with all the volume on everything and everyone turned up, it's just so relentless. So I find Danny Aiello annoying by, I don't know, just for the fact that he's around other people all doing the same thing. So everyone becomes like, whereas I could defend Danny Aiello, like if I just saw like clips of him, I'm like, oh, he's quite charming, he's got a decent singing voice. But that isn't true of, say, like Richard E. Grant and what's her
Minerva.
face? Minerva.
So
They
that's another
are
good
like
thing.
they're just so bad. And
Yeah, they
like even in a film where everyone's turned up to 11, it's like Richard E. Grant went, I'm going to turn it up another 2 to 13.
they feel like villains that should have been in a parody movie, like Scary Movie or something like that. They
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
it's
totally.
it's very very odd. What I usually say, going back to Danny Aiello and
Mhm.
Bruce Willis, I've said it a lot of times on this podcast. I do like when you're not catered for, like they don't spoon feed you relationships or anything. This is how
Yeah.
we know these, but
Mhm.
I kind of needed a bit more of their relationship, like how they know each other. Like Danny Aiello picks him up
Mhm.
and he goes, "Oh, I'm your buddy." Apparently you. It's 1991. You've been gone before Nintendo was released, so you've been gone for about 15
Since
years or whatever it is.
well, Nintendo came out in 1985 over here, so
Okay,
he's been
so
away for like 6, 7 years or something.
yeah, okay, so that's fine. But he's saying you own half of this bar, but you didn't know you own half of this bar because I've changed the bar
Yeah,
without
yeah,
you
yeah.
knowing. And a lot of those things, and like I've screwed up the friendship. Like Daniel easy enough screwed him over apparently, but I don't think he actually did screw him over. Like it
That
was
fell flat to me. I was hoping you'd be able to explain to me the whole double cross because there are so many moving parts in this very strange film. By the time he double crosses him at the end, I'm just like, I'm not even sure what you did or why you did it or if I
yeah.
should care. It's just all very strange. And like you said, it's like they're charming enough on screen, but I totally agree with you. Just a bit more backstory or a better told version of what we got, perhaps, would make that kind of instead it's just like, oh, they're just playing for chucks like all the time and there's
Yeah.
nothing else to their relationship whatsoever.
I'm glad you said double cross as well. But I felt they must have been glad, like the writers or the director, whoever, were glad that the word double cross exists.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Because there's probably what, maybe five double crosses in this film. Everybody is double crossing everybody else.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
fucking absolutely insane. It's ridiculous. I still don't understand it. Their plan is world domination by turning lead into gold. But
Yeah, it's like fuck
he
up the
made
markets.
his
It's
first
like they're just doing it for the shit of it, I suppose.
yeah, but if he made his first billion by 19,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he's got enough money to
Yeah, but that's one thing I'll say I took from the plot is that he's got more than enough money and they're just assholes. So their idea is that they're just going to crash the world economy. Like basically he's playing it as like Dr. Evil, ostensibly
okay,
by this
yeah.
point. So it's just like we are just, like the whole idea, like what is it like I think it's Austin Powers 2. When they say, listen, we bought Starbucks, we're already fucking loaded. But it's like, no, I just want to
Yeah.
control the world again. I just want to fuck. It's like that kind of shtick. But it never really lands. Like you just kind of forget about their whole narrative because all of a sudden you've got James Coburn and his CIA crew knocking around. Andy McDowell she's in with the Vatican, and I don't really know what the relationship is there. It feels like she's maybe double crossing people. She's double crossing Hudson Hawk. I don't know. People just keep, and then out of the blue, Daniel double crosses Bruce Willis. And he's like, wait, why should I care about any of this? And the point
But
is, you
that
just
didn't take long because he
does.
straight away double crossed them then. So it was like a triple cross. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, and I was about to say it's absolutely insane. Speaking of insane,
Mm-hmm.
that, as I said, that Acme related grenade launcher that got pulled out of a golf bag.
Oh yeah.
How many of those rockets are in there?
I don't know.
It
And
didn't
how
look
did
like that
somebody?
big of a golf bag.
And one guy got shot in the face with one of
Yeah,
them, and it's
Snickers
just like
did.
is it just like stuck in his head?
It
And
must
like
be like,
there are
and
moments of odd, like there's one bit earlier in the ambulance when a dude gets like a bunch of needles in his face. I was just like, God damn, that's actually pretty nasty. But
That one, but the grenade sticking to his head wouldn't have worked for a start because there's not enough surface area. Have you ever have you ever tried sticking a plunger to your forehead? It's not going to stick all the way.
well, it would just like there'd just be blood everywhere. If it's stuck to his head, there's no plunger on it. It's the idea, I guess, is that it's in
No,
his
they're
head.
sticky. They're sticky. That's the
Oh,
point of
okay,
it.
okay, yeah, yeah. Sorry.
They were like plungers on the end of it. But his comic jumping up and down while he's trying to pull it off. And
Hmm,
that two
hmm.
minutes went about really quickly. And speaking of quickly, that's some fast acting paralysis poison.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was a film I already disliked, but the paralysis scene with James Coburn is a disgrace to horrible physical comedy. I really didn't like, as I mentioned earlier, this all leads to the second unexplained jump, but that whole bit where they're really going for it and they're like, for some odd reason, they can still move their head, but not the rest of their body. And they're really swinging it about and really leaning into the whole Three Stooges thing. But again, because it doesn't fit the rest of the movie, I'm just watching. I'm just like, God, this is just horrible. But again, people are giving this the green light, and that leads directly into. Sorry, I said the James Coburn. The James Coburn scene is the next one where he has the fight on like the castle wall,
With Bruce
and
Willis, where he does his weird back and forth bending down move.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. You think, oh, it's going to be this big showdown between two characters we don't really care about for a start. Like don't get me wrong, I love James Coburn as an actor, and he's been in some absolutely fantastic movies. I don't know, one, why he's in this, or two, what he's really doing. And like they have this big showdown, but I'm not invested in that in any way. And I'm not expecting it to be dramatic. This is inherently a comedy, but it just meant like nothing to me. So all I'm doing is watching this ridiculous cartoon fight going on and just thinking how much it all annoys me, sadly. And even because, he has one or two moments of relatively grounded heroism, like the bit when they use it in the poster, the bit when he swings off the side of the cat. I keep calling it castle. Let's just call it a castle.
Yeah.
And they use it in the poster.
It was
like,
the Da Vinci Castle.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And the bit when he actually is steals from the Vatican, there's a moment when you actually get to see him doing what he's supposed to be good at. Yeah. And they don't kind of come in with any goofy humor or anything like that. I'm like, this is the film I kind of wanted it to be, with like, jokes thrown in here and there. But they just can't help themselves. Even the introduction, I hated the framing device in terms of the voiceover. So, oh God, what's his name? William Conrad does this bizarre voiceover, and I hated the framing device so much that I forgot about it until, of course, the end when it comes back in needlessly. Like, for fuck's sake. But I actually had high hopes at the start, because you have the sequence in the castle in Italy. One of the things this film does really well is it's shot on location. So it looks like maybe Tuscany or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is all pretty cool. And they ruin it with that terrible Mona Lisa joke where she smiles and she's got a tear. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I like that joke. I quite like that joke.
Fucking hate that. It just really muggy, horrible humor.
I mean, they threw a lot in that beginning, mind, because they wanted to say, right, all of this is based around Leonardo da Vinci. He made this crystal that will turn lead into gold. Okay, that's fine, that's great. But in case you don't get it through the film, we're going to show you all of his inventions really quickly.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to walk through. Oh, there's the helicopter, the like little design where he's going to put one of them. Oh, there's the horse. Oh, he's just written in his codex, so that's fine. There's Mona Lisa. Just in case you don't know who Leonardo da Vinci is, there's the Mona Lisa. Now we're going to go to the roof so we can try his plane, because that'll come back later. That's
of course that's going to come back later. Yeah. That would have been one of the set pieces they would have sold the movie on. But again, it just kind of happens at the end. There's no real fanfare to it.
Chekhov's Da Vinci plane. You've seen it once. It's going to be used.
It's going to be a thing. I mean, that should have been like a dramatic sequence, but instead, Bruce Willis and Andy McDowell fly off the end of the building. They land amongst a bunch of fucking cartoon kids who are all like, oh my God, what's up to you? They're both laughing. I can only describe as maniacally. And I'm just like, wait, what the fuck is happening? And of course, that leads straight into Danny Aiello coming back from the dead. And
they did, when they were flying as well, the weird evil guy head taunt as well. Both of them did it. When they were laughing, they just rolling their heads.
Yeah, it's a really, really weird sequence. And again, this idea is like, of all the takes, this was the best one. Jesus, titty fucking Christ. And this actually led to like a really rough period of Bruce Willis's career, because he's had like ups and downs. But he was coming off, like you said, the reason he got to make this, he's coming off like, Die Hard 2. But then all of a sudden it's like Bonfire, The Vanities was 1990, not great. He played smaller roles in Mortal Thoughts in 91. Billy Bathgate, I've never even heard of in 91. in fairness, he did Last Boy Scout, which we love, but wasn't a hit in 91. Death Becomes Her, I actually have quite a bit of time for, but again, wasn't a massive hit. Striking Distance in 93, Color of Night in 94, North in 94. You're like, Jesus Christ, he's gone off the rails completely. He gets back on track with Pulp Fiction. It's easy to forget. That was seen as like a bit of a comeback movie. And it was because, like, for 3 years, man, fucking hell, Bruce Willis, just maybe because he had just too much power and he made like an abundance of just terrible choices. But yeah, this was right in the middle of them. And this was a folly. I mean, you mentioned at the start that this movie was a flop. It was an interesting one because it was a massive flop in the States. Like it made 17 million in the United States and was like up for a bunch of Razzies, unsurprisingly. And as you said, was actually a much bigger hit in Europe and the rest of the world. And that doesn't surprise me because when this movie's at its best, it feels like a surrealist French comedy caper. There are there is a lineage of European cinema which kind of leads towards this film, like a lot better than this film. But it does have elements of European cinema, especially French cinema, I think. And I can totally understand why this did better. You know, people in America are expecting another Die Hard, an action film, and they get this. Whereas in Europe, I can imagine they would have been much more amenable to the idea of this surrealist farce. But
you know what this film felt like, as you said that?
I was just going to say, like, this film totally made money in the end on VHS. It was a massive hit on VHS.
Yeah. Well, I think it was like 85 million budget and it brought in 97 million.
But that it actually, based on its cinematic run, it lost 90 million because you have to take into account, or like everyone's like, oh, but it only costs this much to make. But once you take into account all the advertising and all the other shit, they lost 90 million. But it did so well on VHS that people, and this is how it was described, that the people who worked on it started getting royalty checks. That's how they knew it was in profit. Yeah. They're like, oh, Andy McDowell's getting paid for this movie now, so it must be doing well. But yeah, very strange.
This movie like felt in the vein of Condor Man. Do you remember Condor Man?
Yes, yeah. Remind me of? It made me think of another ill-advised early 90s action comedy, Bird on a Wire. It's much stranger than Bird on a Wire, but it has that same air of like a guy who's maybe been given too long a leash. And, you know, that one wasn't great either, but this is
I like Bird on a Wire as well. I think Bird on a Wire is great.
Bird on a Wire is also bad. It's not nearly as bad as this. It'd be an interesting one to revisit, though. I wonder how it was held up, because I love Mel Gibson. But
if we've revisited what you've called the worst film we've ever done on this podcast, the only way is up now, isn't it? So
it is the only way is up. And
I take that I take that challenge, mind. There's a bunch of films that I can think of, Garbage Pail Kids, that I could get you to watch.
I wonder if I would hate it more than this, because the interesting thing is, what we have to remember is this is from the director Michael Lehman. Now, Michael Lehman and the writer as well writer-director team of this film famously gave us Heathers. Now, Heathers is an absolutely fantastic movie. I literally can't get my head around how the writing and directing team of Heathers went from that to this. It's absolutely insane. And I find it oddly compelling in its own unique way.
I like Heathers as well. I've only, my first watching of Heathers was within the last 5 years. I'm a big 80s, 90s Christian Slater fan, so you think I would have watched it, but for some reason it passed me by. But I think the change between the Heathers and this is you've got an actor who is a bigger draw, so has decided that this is what he wants in the film, and the studio have gone to give him what he wants. Just give him what he wants.
Michael Lehman's the director, but he's directing Bruce Willis's movie. Make no mistake about it, and that is the big difference. Like Heathers is a Michael Lehman film. This is a Bruce Willis film directed by Michael Lehman, and that's the big difference. But
written by or screenplay by Steven D'Souza, who has given us some brilliant films. I mean, off the top of my head, he's given us Die Hard, 48 Hours, Commando. And then as you go through, then he's done like Street Fighter, Judge Dredd, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Ricochet.
A real mixed bag then.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. If you want to find a film which is worse than this, maybe Beverly Hills Cop 3. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is really fucking bad.
I don't know if I ever want to do.
No, I definitely want to do that.
We've only done Beverly Hills Cop. I was thinking because the new Netflix one is coming out in July. So I think at some point one of us is going to have to pick Beverly Hills Cop 2. But
happily
we're going to draw the line.
Yeah, well, and
he's also given us things
like. Oh, sorry.
He gave us the Running Man, Jumping Jack Flash. Like he's done quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, like you said, this this isn't the problem with the writer. This is, like you said, the big problem here is, make no mistake, this is Bruce Willis's baby, and you can see that on screen everywhere. So if anyone's to blame, it's very much Bruce Willis, and I'll throw Richard E. Grant into that as well. But the thing that saves this film, and it's the reason that you said you enjoy it so much, despite its myriads of faults, is that it very much is in the so bad it's good. Like, it becomes good. Like, watching it on your own is a rough experience. Watching this in cinema with a bunch of like-minded movie fans, everyone who's fully aware of what an absolute piece of shit this film is, there is fun to be had. It is ludicrously bad. Like, I've always had this like slight obsession where you have like all this talent and all this money, and somehow you end up with like, I would put this in the same kind of category. And I'm going to apologize because I know inexplicably some people genuinely like this film. I would put this in the same category as, say, Cats or Gods of Egypt. Those kind of movies where there's a lot of money involved. And
there's
like,
no so bad. I've not seen Cats, but I can tell you there's no bad. It's good for them. Gods of Egypt.
No. Sorry, I should have separated the two, because this is so bad it's good. This is more in terms of just, I find it compelling that you have all this talent and all this money, and somehow you can make something that bad. It's like, I have to see, like I said with Cats before, I had to watch at least 20 minutes of it. I was like, is it as bad as people say? Because there's so much money and talent on screen. And then you watch it like, oh, it is. It's so bad. Don't get me wrong, 20 minutes was more than enough. And it was the same with Gods of Egypt.
I watched 20
watch
minutes. All of Gods of Egypt?
No fucking way, dude.
I did.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Dude, I watched 20 minutes in its own unique way. I thoroughly enjoyed that 20 minutes, but only under the pretense that I was like, I can turn this off whenever I want. And I was very happy. That was the dude
that gave us The Crow and Dark City. And he gave us Gods of Egypt.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what's so interesting. It's like, this isn't like there's some kind of giant red flag. This maybe does have the right red flag of the whole Bruce Willis thing having too much power. But these films where you look at it and you have all these individual parts which should add up to something special, but instead add up to an absolute turd. I find that so compelling. But yeah, two separate things, because this film does have a bit of fun.
I'll let you go and watch the Euros, right? I'm going to watch Gods of Egypt this weekend.
You're going to watch God? Why would you do that to yourself, dude? Why? Why there are so many movies, and worst of all, you've already seen it. You know it's terrible. What are you doing to yourself?
For some reason, I just want to give it another go. See if I missed anything.
You didn't. You 100% didn't miss anything. It's an absolute. It's so aggressively unpleasant to look at. Just to look at. It's horrible film. Anyway. Do we have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think. The only thing was a villain in a better film. Mm-hmm. Like, that butler should have been the main bad guy, or like, I don't know. He was really good.
Well, they're going for the whole odd job thing with him, weren't they? Yeah. Like, a normal dude, but he's got like a cool weapon. Instead of a hat, he had like those hand knives, which were pretty. They didn't make any sense, but they were pretty badass.
Yeah, because how are they coming out without slicing his shirt?
It doesn't make any sense.
His shirt is perfectly.
And again, another perfect example of this tonally being fucking all over the map. It's like when he kills the butler, it's like he chops his head off, and you see it. You're like, God damn, that's violent as fuck.
Thank you for that. What a fucking terrible line as well. Alfred, you won't be attending a hat convention in July? Like, they've had a conversation about a hat convention previously or something?
I don't understand it. There's that weird Nintendo, like right at the end of the film. It's like, will you play Nintendo with me? What the fuck? Where did that come from? And she's like, of course I will. She has no reference to this whole Nintendo thing. Where did he get his arm bandaged? I don't know. Like, how did Tommy survive the freeze frame? I remember, like, literally the last 5 minutes of this film, I was so exasperated. I was like, how can there be so many bad things in the last 5 minutes of this film? It's insane.
What was his belt buckle made of? Because his dick would have been gone. Well, she shot him in the fucking dick or the waist.
He should have been dead like 4 or 5 times in this film. It's really strange, the decisions they made. And we could keep going on and on and on about this. And I certainly could, but we do need to wrap it up eventually.
We do need to wrap it up. I just want to mention one more thing. I know I already said that.
No, go for it, buddy.
You said they should have been dead in this film. They should have died at the start. When their master plan was to use I don't even know what they're called, a life preserver, a pool ring, and a pool rope to climb across. Like, that thing should have snapped in seconds.
Yeah, it's like I said, but you get one brief moment of what I can only describe as competency for our hero, and like we didn't really mention it much, but the on location stuff is actually really cool. They go to the Vatican. You can see they go to, I went to the Vatican last year. Like, yeah, that they're there. They go to Rome. You can see they're on site. It's got some cool stuff from a directorial level. And it comes back to the fact that there are some talented people involved. But why is it so sparse? Why do we only get to see this one moment of Bruce Willis being a competent thief? That's supposed to be his whole shit. And there's one bit with the thumb ring thing, which is kind of cool. But for the most part, and that's another example, they're just acting like buffoons. Like, even when they jump off the roof after that heist, you've got one massively overweight guy who's clearly incompetent. It's like, dude, take your chance with the incompetent guard who's clearly on $5 an hour back in 1991, rather than jumping off the top of the
I'm
building.
really
It's
upset
it's
as
such
well.
a bad choice.
I'm really upset as a husky gentleman. I'm really upset that they keep calling Danny Aiello fat.
They really go for it when he's not that big.
No,
Like fair play. If it was the security guard who's just running around fucking shooting everyone, like he was a big old fella. Fair enough. Danny Aiello is like, he's carrying a bit of timber, but I'm like, I'm not sure if this running joke about him being a fat cunt is at all necessary. At all.
not at all. Like, to call him Tubbo at the beginning. Like, Jesus Christ.
And I'm not saying that in like a sensitive way or anything like that. It's just weird because he's just not that big.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And they just keep going to the well. But dude, they go to the well like 4 or 5 times for really bad jokes over and over again. So, it's just one of any number of terrible jokes in this film, which are repeated en masse.
I'll let you move on now. You can move on.
Fair enough. So favorite scene, I've already mentioned it, it's robbing the Vatican. Like, just seeing him like be Hudson Hawk, this kind of like, superhero kind of thief, whatever the hell he's supposed to be. You even get like, I love the security guard eating spaghetti out of a flask. Like
I hated that. I hated
it.
that. It really upset me. The way it slopped out of that flask.
I get it. But even in that sequence, they couldn't help themselves. They suddenly cut to what I can only assume is the Pope watching Mr. Ed on TV for some reason. I'm like, why is he watching Mr. Ed? Like, is this a joke we're not like invited to? But like I said, there's a moment I'm like, all right, fair play. They're on location. It's in the Vatican. He's doing his thing. I'm like, this is cool. It doesn't last long, but for a moment there, it was the movie I hoped it would be. But yeah, that's my favorite scene.
You're gonna hate it. My favorite scene. Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar.
I think that's actually fair enough. Like, they are charming together. They both have relatively decent voices. It doesn't make any sense. But like I said, I had those fucking songs in my head for the past 2 to 3 days. They picked some really cool songs. If you're willing to leave your brain at the door, which you really need to for this film in general, you can actually enjoy those sequences just fine. And it's novel. It is novel. At its best, this film is novel at times. But
you don't need to leave your brain at the door. You need to leave your brain at home, travel 2 miles to the cinema, sit down and watch the film. Because
I would actually leave it at home. Have someone. Can you be lobotomized after you've left your brain at home? I don't know, but that was probably for the best as well.
Loves and hates.
Loves and hates. Willis, still rather charming. As I said, like, if you took his performance and Danny Aiello to an extent and you turned everyone else down, like, the closest thing I can think to it, and it's not as egregious as this, my big issue with Ghostbusters from 2016 is, and the big problem is the Paul Feig film, is that everybody is trying to be funny in that film and it doesn't work. It's like it inherently lost what Ghostbusters was. It's like, yes, some of the characters are funny, but everyone else is playing it straight. That's how some of the scares work, the horror works, and that's why the comedy works, because everyone else is playing it straight, and you've got, obviously Bill Murray, playing it for laughs and stuff. Whereas with 2016 one, everyone is playing it broadly comedic, and it just becomes too much. It has other problems, but that's my big issue with that film. And it's the same here. If you had like these larger in life characters in a world where everyone else was maybe turned down 2 or 3 notches, I think it would have worked so much better. And there's something to be said for Willis's performance in this. But like I said, it's too much in a film where everybody is just turned up to 11. Sorry, was that a positive? I got there eventually.
Do you know what? I wondered if I've already given you my loves, because that sounded like a hate.
I know it did, didn't it? There are actually a handful of good lines. Like when he walks in and says, "I can see you. Where's the penis in this relationship?" It's a funny line. Like, it almost reminds me of The Last Boy Scout. There are There are moments when this film almost gets there to the film you want it to be, but it doesn't last long. It's like it's a funny comedic needle in a haystack of horrible writing. That's the only way I can describe it. And number three, I already mentioned earlier, some really cool location work, especially in Rome, which I thought was awesome. So those are my loves, just about.
Bruce Willis, for the most part,
Mhm.
I think he's great. And I'm gonna separate. So I think Bruce Willis, for the most part, is good in this. Although you can clearly see he's getting away with a lot he shouldn't be getting away with. Like they're just
Mhm.
letting him do everything he wants to do. Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello together,
Yep.
I think, are great. I think their relationship, theirs is the best relationship in the film, which
Oh,
makes that
100%.
weird double cross, triple cross thing seem very strange to me. It just makes no sense.
It just doesn't land either. So yeah, it's fine,
Yep.
whatever.
And the location,
Mhm.
being shot in Italy, I think looks absolutely stunning. Wakes up and just sees the Colosseum right outside and everything. I think it looks great.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's a talented director behind the camera with this film. There's good stuff. It's relatively well made in its own weird way. It's just a ton of terrible decisions have been made. In terms of hates, number one, the hat and the earring, that combination. Maybe if you just done one or the other, I could have got away with it. But the hat and the four fucking earrings, fucking
I'm
forget about it. And
I'm
that's
not
why
even gonna sorry.
sorry,
I'm not even gonna let you say your number two yet because my number one was four earrings. I just wrote down four earrings.
that's totally fine. And it's one of the things that genuinely put me off this movie when I was younger was seeing the poster and it was just Bruce Willis looking smug, which he can kind of get away with. He cannot get away with looking that smug with that hat and those fucking earrings. Forget about it. Number two, and this really is number one, if truth be told, the Mayflowers are just the worst. They
Yeah.
are the fucking worst. In case I hadn't stressed that enough, they really upset me. Luckily, they also upset Richie Grant, so that's absolutely fine. And number three, the comedy is just horrible in this film. I could go on forever, but those are my three. But I just want to make clear, and again, if people think I'm being unfair on this film, I was
You
like,
are.
how bad were I'm not. I checked some of the reviews. Chicago Tribune, boring and banal, overwrought and undercooked. Hudson Hawk is beyond bad. Variety called the film a relentlessly annoying clay duck that crash lands in a sea of wretched excess and silliness. Those willing to check their brains at the door may find sparse amusement. I think those are two very bang, especially the
Yeah, but
latter.
the problem you're doing is looking for actual critics. And I always argue critics don't know films.
I think they do. I think you'll
No, they
find that
don't. I mean, on
the,
IMDb, it's got a 5.7 out of 10. It's over
you
half.
you cannot trust the general public, right? What happens is you
The
get a
general
bunch of
public are like me, dude. I can
no,
trust them.
you get a small number of lunatics like you who feel strongly about this film, and they're the ones who go and vote. Most people are like they can't be bothered voting about this film because it's just not good enough. So you get a lot, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's basically there's no balance. It's like everyone who feels really passionate about this film, they're all voting for it. Where most people like me, I'm not voting to say Hudson Hawk is terrible. I don't need to. It just is bad.
Small numbers. I mean, yeah, it's small in the grand scheme of things, but 61,000 people have voted for this film to give it half.
The thing is, right, in your defense, some people do like this film. Some people do like this film. I would say it's objectively terrible. I think what happens is, like you, if you watch this when you were younger, there is a kind of ludicrousness. And maybe if you can latch onto the fact that it is totally unique, there's something there. Or maybe if the humor somehow clicks for you, maybe you could enjoy it. But yeah, I can't see this. I don't think it's just a personal taste thing. I think this really is an objectively horrendous movie, back to front. But that's just me, maybe.
Should we do my hates?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I've already said my number one, four earrings.
Of course, of course.
My number two, you said here as well as number three, which was the Mayflowers, but 60% more towards Minerva. I fucking hated Minerva. She does my
Yeah,
Sweden.
yeah, she's just an annoying face as well.
Yeah,
Really bad.
yeah. And this is a random one.
Mhm.
Lack of plot or too much plot. I couldn't
Yeah.
actually tell whether there was not enough plot or whether there was too much of it and they were trying to jam it all in and it just didn't explain it too much.
The only way I can describe it, and I think you're absolutely on something there, is I think there's maybe not enough plot, but too many characters. So
Yeah.
it feels more convoluted than it is. I think the actual plot is relatively straightforward, but because there are so many characters and so many teams, it becomes needlessly convoluted. So I think you're right on both counts.
Yep.
Cool. Any alternative titles for this one? Or is everyone
Oh
just going
boy,
ahead
are
and
there.
Ooh,
So a lot of these are Hudson Hawk dash something. Okay.
or colon, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Argentina have come straight out of
Awesome.
the gate, making no sense whatsoever. Hudson Hawk, the Falcon is loose.
Fantastic. Yeah, it makes no sense. Perfect for the film.
Austria, Hudson Hawk, the Master Thief.
That's fair enough.
Finland, Hudson Hawk, the Best of Thieves.
I think all these are maybe giving him a little bit too much credit. We don't see enough to suggest that he is actually any good at this. We just hear it, but we don't see much.
I like when he said then they've given him too much credit because France definitely have. Hudson Hawk, gentleman and burglar.
He's definitely not a gentleman.
No.
He's an absolute slimeball.
Greece, Hudson Hawk, the Hawk.
Jesus Christ. It's totally needless, but yeah, sure.
Hungary, Hudson Hawk, a master thief is worth gold.
As convoluted as the plot / needless number of characters.
Italy, probably when they watched this film, thought, yeah, and this is like it was set in Italy, but they probably thought, wow, how is he jumping from here to there and stuff? We've gone cartoon rules. They've gone, no, Hudson Hawk, the wizard of theft.
Oh, they've really gone for it. There is magic involved in all this. That's how good he is.
Mexico, the hawk is on the loose.
No.
Serbia, the Hudson Falcon.
Okay, sure.
Spain, the Great Falcon.
Yeah, wait, they're losing us now, aren't they?
Yeah. Sweden, the hawk is loose.
This is all because Hudson Hawk doesn't translate as a name to these countries, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, which is why Taiwan, the ultimate condor.
Sure.
I have no idea what Turkey watched. Cute thief.
I mean, he's a handsome enough fellow. I wouldn't call him cute.
Yeah.
No, like not the word I would use to describe Bruce Willis.
Like you got, aren't you a cute thief as you're pinching his cheeks? Oh, yeah, look at you cute thief.
Yeah. Nobody's pinching Bruce Willis's fucking cheek. Just no way. Any facts?
Yeah, we got a couple. So Bruce Willis received the story credit. It was his only attempt at screenwriting. They're adamant on that.
No shit.
There were frequent on-set script rewrites as a result of Bruce Willis just throwing ideas around. Like throwing shit to a wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, he comes in one day. It's like the really shit version of Apocalypse Now. You know, where it's like Marlon Brando showed up on set and he weighed like 400 pounds and they had to shoot him from below, but he still got away with it because he's Marlon Brando. It's just like that, only not good.
Sorry. The tones that the handcuffs make are the same as the tones used in Our Man Flint and In Like Flint for the telephones. James Coburn appears in all three movies.
Fair enough.
James Coburn plays George Kaplan, which is the name of the fake agent from North by Northwest.
That's pretty cool. I mean, this film has no business comparing itself or having anything to do with North by Northwest, but fair enough.
Isabella Rossellini was originally cast as Anna Barajli. When the movie was delayed because of scheduling issues, the part was recast with Marushka Detmers. She had to leave after a few days of shooting due to back problems. Andy McDowell replaced her.
Well, maybe dodged a bullet.
Although the film is a comedy, it was marketed as an action film due to the presence of Bruce Willis and following the success of Die Hard 2.
That was this big issue in America. It's just people going to see it like, what the fuck is this?
Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard got along very well and remain good friends to the day.
Something good that came out of it.
Actor Richard E. Grant devoted a chapter of his book With Nails, the film diaries of Richard E. Grant, to the covering of this movie's chaotic production.
You can feel it on the screen everywhere. This feels like it was made by lunatics. Like you can just know, like you say, all the rewrites, everything, it's all up on the screen. You can see the mess that this movie was.
In the early versions of the script, most of the third act took place at the Kremlin, where a scale model of Da Vinci's helicopter was being kept.
Might have been cool.
Richard E. Grant says part of the reason he and Sandra Bernhard got on so well was they both quickly realized the production was a mess and that the film was likely to be terrible.
Yeah, Richard E. Grant really doesn't like. He definitely hates this film as much as I do.
Yeah.
It's just the big difference being he was in it, so he's got even more reason to hate it.
Nintendo humor abounds in this movie. New Jersey's third largest crime family is known as the Mario Brothers. Additionally, Hudson Hawk has been in prison so long he does not know what a Nintendo is. An NES game was released as well at the time of the movie, and a SNES game was in the works but was cancelled after the movie bombed.
Yeah, that'll do it.
The Brooklyn Bridge toll booth scene was actually filmed at the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, as the Brooklyn Bridge had no toll at the time. When checking out of prison, the clerk places Hudson Hawk's jacket over a drawing of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Yep. Go on,
Well, I've got
I'll end it there. Yeah.
one extra one, which I really think sums up this movie. So Hudson Hawk, in one of the more famous scenes, is given a brick of gold and a brick of lead while blindfolded.
Oh,
I'm sure you
I
remember
read that
it.
one. Yeah, yeah.
Like the whole idea is he's supposed to demonstrate that they're indistinguishable by weight. Truth is, gold is 70% denser than lead, and the weight difference would be easily noticed. The gold brick would weigh about 30 pounds, but obviously in the film they just handle it like it's just no big deal whatsoever. They also mention that gold and lead differ by 1 proton on the periodic table of elements. The difference is actually 3 protons and 7 neutrons. So even that sequence, they're just making up as they go along, basically. In terms of Hoax the Future, so this is where we ask a question: remake, sequel, let it die, or leave well alone. Not only am I going to say let it die, I would go as far as say is make it die. That's how strongly I feel about this. So yes, definitely let it die.
As we've said for a lot of these films that we do from the 80s, the character would do well as a remade TV show. I think The Adventures of Hudson Hawk, like each week he's got to scope out another bit of Da Vinci's artworks or whatever to solve the mystery of why they want it. So I think, do I want a remake? No. But if there was a remake, it would be that. But I think leave it alone. Don't let it die. I mean, Hudson Hawk has to show us what can be delivered or what will be delivered if you let the star take the reins.
Egotistical stars take the reins.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, right, as much as I really don't like this film, as I've made abundantly clear,
really,
there is something to be said. Like if we're going to do that comparison again, like really Beverly Hills Cop 3, there's no joy in watching that. It's just a bad film, really bad film. Whereas this film it's really bad, but it's bad in such a unique, weird way that it is fun. Like Richard E. Grant is one of the most annoying characters in the world. But if you and I went to a screening of this, like, a midnight show at the cinema, it would be riotous. It would be so much fun. If you were all like, listen, we know what we're getting into. There is definitely fun to be had. It's 100% unintentional. So maybe for that reason, above all else, I won't say, make it die, but let's just be clear, leave it well alone. It is what it is at best.
It's in the vein of Tommy
Wiseau's
The Room, isn't it? Absolutely appalling film, but fantastic to watch with people in the cinema.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely in that kind of rarefied air, and that's the important thing with those films. If you go out trying to make, and I have said this before, but I think it bears repeating, I suppose, especially in this instance, is if you go out and try and make a film which is so bad it's good, a la Sharknado, it doesn't work. It does not fucking work. Sharknado, I don't care what anyone says, those films are just dog shit. They're just bad. The only reason these kind of films work is because everybody making it is trying to make a good film. Like, they're trying really hard. It just turns out to be absolute dog shit. They're the compelling ones. And for that reason, I wouldn't go as far as to say I'd never watch Hudson Hawk. I'll never watch it on my own. There's no fucking way. But if I was watching a bunch of people with a couple of beers, I'm like, yeah, dude, this could be a fucking riot. 100%.
Yeah.
Make a change. So it's where we ask, like, you only make one change for this film to somehow save it. I think what would go a long way towards that is just having most of the characters play it straight. Leave the zaniness to Willis and Ao rather than everyone turned up to 11. There's just too much. Like, if you just, you either go one way, as we mentioned earlier, you either go full Looney Tunes and everyone's fucking berserk and they're pulling skateboards out their tiny bag, or everything else is relatively grounded and you have these larger than life characters. That would work. Just not what we end up with.
Yeah. It was the same for me. It was make it the straight film. Make it the film that I already said about Hudson Hawk and his mentor, Danny Aiello, doing one last job. The CIA needs someone as well to screw him over. But can you make it straight where the end result is turning lead into gold? It's a bit difficult.
I don't think you have to play it completely straight. I just think you need to turn it down. This can be a funny film. It's just, it doesn't need to be this batshit crazy. That's the problem. Like you said, like they could have a more kind of like, their relationship could matter more. They could still have that banter, that back and forth. You could still have jokes. We just don't need to be like, it just doesn't need to come from every direction all the fucking time.
It's funny, isn't it? Because even though I've said that, and the make change to me, make it straight, I love the batshitness of this film. This is why I love it. So I think I'm going to change my mind and say to make it change, take the fucking cappuccino out of it. It's pointless.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
go with that. You could handpick most things in this film and just say take that out, and it would make it a better film. But then you're not left with much of a movie, sadly. In terms of video games, you already mentioned there was a video game based on the film that was released in 1991 under the title Hudson Hawk, obviously for various home computers and game consoles. I think it was Sony ImageSoft released versions for the NES and Game Boy, while Ocean Software released it for the Commodore 64, Amiga, ZX Spectrum. You always used to get these in the giant boxes, blah, blah, blah. As you said, there was supposed to be a Super NES version that was canned because this movie was a terrible flop. Also, none of the versions, whether it be on the NES or the home computers, were actually very good. If you're going to make, for some reason, a Hudson Hawk game in 2024, I would actually go for Sucker Punch's Sly Cooper and just kind of make that a rival. Only replace the wisecracking raccoon with a wisecracking Bruce Willis. So that's what if any excuse to bring back Sly Cooper, basically. But that's the best I could do.
I would with the yes, it's Naughty Dog. With the breaking into something and the adventure side of it and everything, you can't be a bit of Uncharted. So you don't have to go that deep into it. Like Uncharted is fucking deep into that. But when they do that, they have done scenes where they've broken into something and they've gone look. I think Naughty Dog could do a decent version of Hudson Hawk.
Imagine that. Imagine if Naughty Dog's next game was Hudson Hawk, the game. Jesus Christ, wouldn't that?
The only person they're impressing is me.
100%, 100%. So this is ratings and recommendations. I think you can see where this is going with me.
Yep.
Absolutely not. I'm not recommending this to everyone. And I think this may be my first one. This, for me personally, this is a 1-star film.
Wow.
It's that bad. Like you said, you can take a unique joy from kind of watching it and the kind of pretext of this is a terrible film, but make no mistake, this film is really bad. I hate the comedy in it. The action doesn't really land. It's miscast. It's just a bad film. So I'm going to go with 1 star, and I'm definitely not recommending it.
Wow. I'm shocked. I'm not really shocked. For me, it's a 3-star film.
Some of the films you've given 3-star and you're throwing this in with them. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I really, really enjoyed this film.
Again, right, I'm not... We've obviously had a conversation about it, but I'm going to come back and defend you and just say, listen, you're not the only one. I was reading up on this. Like you said, I know we had that argument about IMDb, and I stand by the fact that our score is probably higher than it should be. But some people like this film, 100%, Yeah. So you're not on an island alone.
This is nostalgia, and I can't take nostalgia away from it. It's a 3-star film because of nostalgia. If I was looking at it like through a critic eye or reviewer eye, then yeah, it'd probably be a 1. But I feel harsh to give it a 1. It doesn't deserve a 2. It's a 3. But
no, that's the problem. It doesn't deserve a 2. It definitely doesn't deserve a 3.
But I wouldn't recommend it.
That is wise. No, I can get that. You've got an attachment to this film. You still enjoy it because memories, blah 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 blah. But yeah, if you recommended this to anyone, I'd be like, wow, dude, really? What the fuck? So that's been Jesus Christ, Hudson Hawk. Next week,
that was your choice, wasn't it? It's my choice now. Hudson Hawk was your choice.
Imagine if that was my choice. I just did that. But what the hell? Didn't you know what you're getting into, you fucking lunatic? I'm going to go on record and say this is a bad choice. The year is 1988.
Oh, okay. 1988. Not really a year we speak a lot of.
No, it seems in all movies. Like one actually list I saw, I had it listed as 1989. I was like, fuck, another 1989 film. But it was actually released in 88.
Okay. I don't know.
Director is Christopher Kane. Not sure if that will mean anything to you.
No.
This is the one that will really help. The star, one of the stars, Emilio Estevez.
Young Guns.
Indeed, Young Guns. A film which, again, not seen in quite a while. A proper Brat Pack movie, very much a movie of its time, but one I absolutely loved growing up, and it just keeps popping up. I think it was on Sky Movies. It was on LG TV. It was one of those free movies you could watch. Yeah. And eventually, I'm just I've been worn down. I was like, dude, I need to rewatch Young Guns.
And this is going to be good because this is definitely up there when we say about these kind of films. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Number 2 or number. A lot of Young Guns, I definitely know Young Guns, but you always say, Christian Slater. No, hang on. No, he was in Young Guns too. A lot of the things you remember about, like getting 100%. Shot by Pat Garrett and all that, are from number 2. But I'd love these films, and I would be really interested to go back to maybe do the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I had the exact same problem when I was thinking about this film, because obviously I was like, we're going to do this, and I just started kind of reminiscing about the film. I suddenly realized, and for a lot of the scenes I was reminiscing about, I was like, wait a minute, am I reminiscing about the first film or the second film? I've just completely combined the two in my brain. So yeah. I mean, I might well be remembering Young Guns 2 right now, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it, because same as you, I like both of these two films growing up. I definitely watched the first one more, and I have more of attachment to it. But yeah, I've definitely conflated scenes from both films at one point or another.
Young Guns was on the list of if there's a film we had to cover, can he join again? So I think Dave's going to join us next week for Young Guns.
Is he a big Young Guns fan, is he?
Yeah, he said that. Young Guns is definitely, I love Young Guns. I want to watch Young Guns. I want to do Young Guns with you. And he's like, do you remember much about it? No. So
fantastic. Yeah, so I'm sure he'll have a lot of very interesting insight. So if you're going to tune into anything, tune in for Dave, who's not going to know shit about this film he apparently loves.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Any other business before we wrap up?
Yeah, just one thing. One of our listeners, Craig Fox, on one of the social medias, he had something interesting to say around what we said last week about Conan.
Okay.
I mentioned about him being drugged.
Mm-hmm.
When
he punched the camel.
Yeah. So Craig came along and said, you guys mentioned the camel punch and if Conan was drugged or drunk. The answer is yes. He was high on drugs. Stygian, which they bought off a merchant who was the director John Milius in costume. So the scene before, and that's why they were eating the lizards on the stick, because they had the munchies. So,
I see. So
we
somehow both missed that. Yeah. I think we both kind of thought maybe something was going on, but we've missed the
it felt like they were drugged or drunk or something, because the like screen went a bit hazy in the way they spoke and stuff. But I completely missed them buying basically weed from a guy before. So
yeah, I just thought they were just eating. I like the idea that they had the munchies. And again, one of the big arguments about whether, like, how much of a hero or anti-hero Conan was, we kind of based around the idea. It's like, well, he can't be that good because he punched a camel, but he was high. It wasn't his fault. He was just caught off guard. So, like I said, Conan apparently an absolute sweetheart. So yeah, well, thanks for that. I've been Liam. He's been Rob, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Hey, you guys!